with Mr. Aaron Nosbisch. Super excited to have you, brother. Where are you, well, real quick before I introduce you, where are you currently at? Because I know you're
Yeah, man.
traveling right now.
I was in Palm Island, which is a small island in St. Vincent in the Grenadines, and now I'm in Barbados, and I leave Thursday.
That's incredible,
Back for
man.
the States. Yeah, man. I'll tell you what. Like it's nice being doing what we do because I can travel and be wherever. But I also married a travel writer, which was like the play, and
Yeah.
so she gets invited to cool places like this, and I tag along. I don't even have to write anything, so it's
Wow,
kind of
that's
cool.
incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Such a fun experience, man. So real quick, let's do a proper introduction. If you guys don't know Aaron, Aaron is the CEO and founder of an agency called We Are Lucid. We Are Lucid works with a bunch of different brands in the conscious compound space. He is, of course, a very humble person, but I will brag on him for a quick second here of that he is like basically has a monopoly on this space because of how incredible work that they do for their clients. They deliver results for all of the clients in this space. So if you guys aren't familiar with the adage conscious compounds, it is actually IP that Aaron has kind of created around his agency, and basically it is CBD brands is probably the main scope. What else is within that conscious compounds?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So essentially, we define conscious compounds as therapeutic compounds that lead to a net positive benefit. Like, there's a
Mm,
lot of products and supplements on the market, most of which I wouldn't necessarily say are net positive. The obvious one's alcohol, right? Like, no one's drinking a beer and like thinking like I'm going to feel great tomorrow because I'm drinking this beer.
yeah,
But you do feel that way about CBD or
sure.
lion's mane or other mushroom products, and so we kind of like focus on emerging wellness products, most specifically CBD and hemp. We run 90% of the CBD and hemp ads on Meta and Google and TikTok as well. And then we do a lot in psychedelic therapy. So we're kind of exploring that space a lot, and we do so ketamine therapies, which is kind of the precursor to psilocybin and MDMA and LSD therapy, and then do some adaptogen work as well. So
Yeah.
adaptogens are products that help you adapt to stress. So mushroom products are the most notorious in that space.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And so you've kind of found this unique niche of brands and that only like really you guys can serve, and we'll jump into that here in a minute. And so it's very unique to me to find someone that has a niche positioning that is so dialed in, that is so I guess like for you guys it's very like an avatar that is just one direction, it's one lane, and that's it. And I think a lot of the misconception that we see in the agency space is this idea of TAM or total addressable market, where
Mm.
people are like, oh, if I go that niche down, I'm not going to have the opportunity to grow and scale to the point that I want to. You guys are currently running an agency that generates over 350K per month with a niche that is so specific. Can you just kind of take me through like maybe like some of the fears, some of the hesitations you had about being such a niche agency, and then some of the reasons that maybe you like jumped in to this specific niche?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I initially was I've been in the e-commerce game since I was like 13, so I've been doing some level of e-commerce for a really long time, and I really cut my teeth with a brand called Monk, and it was in the aromatherapy space. And so we scaled that brand from 0 to 100,000, and 100,000 to 7 million, and 7 million, 15 million in just a few years. So I really learned a lot really quickly during that time. And I learned a lot about the like FDA, non-FDA regulated space. So how to navigate the supplements, the nutraceutical space. Shortly thereafter, I got into CBD. I wanted to essentially be on the legal and nationally distributable side of cannabis, and tried to advertise and realized that all the learnings I had from my monk days and scaling there. And at that time, we were in the top 1% of advertisers on Meta. And so we got invited to headquarters a lot. And so I had all these skill sets in media buying and advertising that I wanted to bring over to CBD, and I couldn't get my ads to stay live. And so I realized like if I'm having this challenge, then it must be a much bigger issue. And so I started consulting cannabis brands and CBD brands. It was the first time I really got into that consulting space, and everyone wanted to know how to advertise. So I just kept working on it and kept working on it, and realized that the market was fairly big. I don't remember what it was projected to back then, but I think it was something around like 20 to 25 billion was the projection of what they thought the CBD and hemp market would be. And I thought to myself, I'm like, wow, if no one can advertise this and someone could figure this out, they would be like an instant category king, and that's a very large market that they could serve and serve effectively. So I kept working on it, and I brought in Calvin, and I brought in Alvin and Nick Shackelford, and those are my partners at Lucid, and really the team that makes everything happen. And they after just like a lot of work, we figured out a path forward. And what I found is like when you're so focused on a niche like that, as soon as you pull it off and pull it off for someone big, ideally, it gives you a lot of leverage in the rest of the community. It's like in niches like that, everyone kind of knows everyone. Now, similar to like the agency space, for instance, like like I know you, we have a lot of mutual friends, and vice versa, and like this is the same thing for CBD. Big CBD and big cannabis knows each other, and so when they hear that one brand's advertising, it's a big leverage move in order to get the other brands. And so something you'll see like on our site is we advertise a lot of the brands that we work with, and we're very open about that, and that's allowed us to like systematically build the authority and reputation in the space as the biggest and the best. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like a T strategy too, right? Like Google talks about like they call it the upside down T strategy, where you have a lot of skill sets, but you get really good at one thing. We did it kind of like a regular T. We got really good at one thing, CBD and hemp advertising, and then kind of opened our wings from there and started supporting brands outside that space. So psychedelic therapy was not a very big jump from what we were already doing. We're doing some cannabis advertising stuff now. We're THC related or hemp derived THC related. And that wasn't a big jump either. And adaptogens as well. It's all these kind of niches that all kind of fall in the next gen wellness, emerging wellness space. They all share similar challenges that the CBD and hemp space, and they also share a similar category class of products, being kind of emerging wellness products. And so I think that most people do this wrong. I think most people come into the space and they say, I want to be the best advertiser for, I don't know, shoes, or maybe that's niche enough, but best advertiser for chiropractic. I don't think they get niched enough. I think you really got to find something that some people aren't touching, that has unique challenges. Ideally, there's some reason, some challenge, some problem that hasn't been solved that you can come in and resolve. And that, like, at the end of the day, like, innovation is like the most valuable thing that you can be doing, like in the world. And so essentially all we did was work on a challenging problem for an extended period of time. And I mean, there was multiple points where we almost gave up, like many times where before I made a partnership with Nick, I had like maybe 5-10 brands that we were able to do it, but it wasn't very consistent. And like all of our business managers got shut down on one day. And like it was like my entire advertising capabilities were just eliminated overnight. And I was so ready to throw in the towel. But it was like that last minute stretch, that we picked ourselves back up, called Nick, made a deal, got some high level support at Facebook. And, that led us to us being where we're at today. So,
yeah, that's awesome, man. And one thing that I wanted to point out there is like, although like CBD was kind of like where you guys started, you guys made almost like 1 degree shifts in your niche of like adding on the mushroom side of things, adding on other niches that were like sub niches of something that you were serving, right? So it wasn't a drastic change. Like it was very similar to the niche that you were currently serving. One question that I kind of had for you, just because I know the story, it's such a good story. You wrote a note to Facebook, a letter to Facebook about getting your guys' ads approved. Can you kind of, are you allowed to talk on that? Are you allowed to kind of go in on that? Because I think it's an incredible story, and I just, obviously for our viewers, would love them to get an idea of like the length that you went for the agency to get ads approved and how you went to bat for the agency.
Absolutely. So I always say there's kind of like 2 ways to innovate, that you can either throw out the rules and build something new that's never been done before, or you can really understand the rules and then build new rules on top of them. And so this was actually at the Monk days. It kind of was the precursor to figuring out what we did here at Lucid. But when I tried to advertise Monk, so for you guys who don't know, Monk was a portable aromatherapy diffuser. We essentially took vaporizer technology. We took the nicotine and tobacco out, and we added essential oils. And then I tried to advertise it, and Facebook said, you can't advertise this. This is an e-cigarette. This is a vaporizer. It's not allowed on the platform.
Mm.
And I wrote a letter to Zuckerberg after a lot of battles and failing. I wrote a letter to Zuckerberg, and I CC'd a few other people. And I said that this is pure innovation, that this is not a vaporizer nor an e-cigarette, that we have followed the rules exactly. And we use vaporizer technology, but we use essential oils. We don't use e-cigarettes. We don't use nicotine. None of the things that categorize a vaporizer. Essentially, trying to just like, I don't know, big case of like why this is actually compliant. And I let him, I wrote him there that this is pure innovation, and that if you don't recognize this as innovation, then you have forgotten what innovation is, and that the corporate machine is at your soul, or something like that, like something
Love it.
gnarly. Like I really
Yeah.
I didn't think anyone would respond, and he didn't respond. But like literally, like a day or a day and a half later, our ad account was unlocked, and we were able to advertise all of a sudden. And we became the first non-vaporizer to advertise on Meta, and so that was like a really important point in my life, just in business as well. It's just that rules, no matter how big the company or how big the entity or system, are malleable. Like
Mhm.
they're changeable, and so that kind of like that really showed me that there was a lot of opportunity to innovate around compliance if you really understood the existing rules. So we took that same
Yep.
knowledge over to Facebook here, and when I had this partnership with Nick, and when I met Nick, I was like, I did two deals. I did a deal with Nick, and I did a deal with another big agency, Power Digital. They're like a 400 person agency or something now. So I did a deal with them, and I said, give us unrestricted, give us access. If you give us access to your Facebook support, because on Facebook, right, like this is actually the case for all platforms, but Meta is the most obvious. You have to have like a lot of spend in order to get a high level of support. And if you're in the CBD or hemp space and you can't get your ads live, and you can't spend, then it's hard to ever get enough spend in order to get the support necessary. So I
Sure.
made that partnership with these guys, said, give me access to the support, let me talk to them. And if I can talk to them, then I'll be able to, I think I can pull something off. So I did a similar thing. I just wrote this huge case of why this is compliant, and I followed all the rules. Here's some references to different methods of policy, just broke it down. Like, here's why this is actually compliant, and you need to let us advertise. And like, people actually have kind of similar motives, especially like platforms like Facebook. Like, they
Sure.
want us to spend money. They just want us to do it in a way that's compliant and follows their rules. And so
Right.
I did the work to showcase how we could do that, and they agreed, and that's kind of how we got here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Such a good story. Absolutely love it. When it comes to, obviously scaling an agency, and everyone kind of sees, obviously the title, and they hear us saying like, hey, like we've scaled to multiple six figures per month. Obviously not an easy feat, and the grass is always greener on the other side. One thing that you had mentioned is like, hey, like we almost quit at one point in time.
Yeah.
What were a few of those moments of like almost throwing in the towel, just to give people perspective on, hey, like this isn't like something that is extremely easy. This takes a little bit of hard work, grit, time, effort, energy, investments. Like this is something that it's going to take a lot of your bandwidth away. Will you dive in a little bit on that, of like some of the struggles that you had
Yeah,
getting
dude.
at this point?
Like, literally, I think I hated agency life until about 6 months ago. So like, I just recently, I have like come to terms with it. It's tough, man. Like, agency life is like carrying around a ticking time bomb, waiting for it to blow up. It's like I forget who told me that, but it's a challenging game, and so
Mm.
there was. So I'll talk about the early days first, but it was challenging multiple steps along the journey, and I'll talk about a little bit kind of what changed. But like, there's a Bible verse I like. It's in Proverbs. I forget exactly where, but it says something along the lines of like, all of the wicked fall several times, they get back up again. Or all the righteous fall several times, they get back up again. Where the wicked flail at the first sign of calamity. And so like, it
Mm.
always like stuck with me that like, to be great, to be righteous, I need to just keep getting back up, and trust the process and trust the journey. And so I had that deep sense in me, and from other hardships before, that I just kind of kept leaning into that. But yeah, I don't know. That being said, like, there was multiple times when when all the ad accounts went down, I was really ready to throw in the towel. There's another time where when I first brought in Calvin, he agreed to come on. I was really hopeful that Calvin would kind of run the company, and I could go do something else for a while. And
Yeah.
so that was kind of the play there. And then it was just getting back up again, getting back up again, and it helped me that we started to hit achievements along the path, and those I kind of looked at and just I kept reminding myself like where I am now is not where I was a week ago, a month ago, or
Yeah.
however. Thanks for that. It's Proverbs 24:16 exactly. And so I kept reflecting on that. The place that I was at was a place that I wanted to be at, and even though I felt down and down consistently, that if I really zoomed out, that I had made leaps and bounds, and that can be done at any level. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be 350,000 a month. It can be the difference between making 3,000 or 10,000 or 30,000
Mhm.
a month, and just reminding yourself that you're making progress. And so I reflect on that a lot. But I'll tell you, man, like the team, getting the right players in the right seat was the big shift that made me stop hating
Yeah.
agency life. Like
Yeah.
when I'm in like I'm sure you talk about this in your trainings quite a bit, but like I'm a visionary. If that's not clear, like between there's the idea of this visionary and integrator. I'm a visionary. Like you asked me to be super hands on with management or operation systems. I love the stuff. I know the stuff, but like that's not my cup of tea. Like
Right.
I'm really about the innovation, the destination, how we're going to get there, who we need to get on the bus, and bringing those players, those resources and players together. And so when I started
Yep.
really understanding that that's not really a problem or a weakness, but a strength that I need to lean into, and a role then with the integrator that I needed to cover. And I had, Avin Klein, my best friend, who I've been working with for a while, came in and joined the company, where he's a pure integrator. Like it's what he loves, it's what he's great at. Like when we started really owning our roles and starting placing people in the right roles and creating more systems and processes, that's when the weight started being carried by the systems, the processes, and the right players
Mm.
in the right seats. And when that weight shifted from my shoulders or my partner's shoulders to the team, it's like that quote, many hands makes a light load. And that's
Mhm.
when I stopped hating the
Yeah.
game so much.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
and it's a love-hate relationship. You know what I mean? Like the thing about agency is that I'm sure you talk about a lot as well, is it's one of the most cash flow heavy businesses that exist. I mean, you talk to these multi-million dollar companies of yesteryear, they wish they could see margins like we see on a regular basis, big and
Yeah.
small agencies. Lucid to this day is still operating at a give or take 50% profit margin, which is pretty significant. And what's cool about that is like you don't need to be 350,000 a month in order for that to be really impactful in your life. If
Sure.
you have a 30,000 or $10,000 agency and it's 50% profitable, it's impactful along the journey, not just at the destination. And that's a
Oh,
beautiful thing about
100%.
agency life.
Oh, completely. Completely. With obviously you have a few partners in place currently. One thing that I meet with agency owners that are doing things in a solo capacity is that they have a hard time letting go of responsibility, but also letting go of sometimes equity to find the right partner, and find the missing puzzle piece. What was kind of the moment that you knew that you had to bring someone else on to fill some of your knowledge gaps? Was there ever a point where you were like, little bit young in the journey, and like you were thinking, like, yeah, I got this. Like, I don't need to give up equity to grow the agency. I can do it on my own.
Yeah, great question. So I actually did partnerships wrong enough times that I figured out how to do it right.
Mm,
That was
nice.
kind of like
Same.
my journey on it. Like, and it's tough, like, partnerships are really tough. I think for a long time I've always been kind of like a I'd rather win together than alone kind of
Mm,
person. So I've always kind of like leaned on that. I've always been like bring in other people that can do well. Let's share equity. Let's all win. And to a fault, like some of the early companies I started, I would just like give out equity like it was nothing, and I just didn't realize
mm,
the value that actually had, or the dilution of the impact of the company by not caring about it. So
sure.
there's a case to be made that like you really need to treat it with a lot of respect, because it's shares, it's a piece, it's the artificial soul of the company, and so for where it came to me is like I realized that one, I realized I didn't want to do it alone. I realized that I needed to bring in people that had skill sets that I didn't necessarily have. And I wanted those people to be rock stars that I could rely on and that would invest enough time and energy to do it. And so, um, and and I think one thing I tell you I did different on this go around too is I initially distributed like less equity. Before when I first started trying to do this, I was really big on like equal partnerships or like let's really like split it down the middle or split it 3 ways or whatnot. It makes it really challenging to not have a decision maker in the company or someone that's like um like a majority holder. And so
Sure.
so the way we did it this time is we brought in more players at more reasonable equity amounts that would allow all of us to win, but also allow us to get things done and do
Sure.
so effectively. So I think that was important. I think one other thing that was really important, like I really like so for the Lucid journey, Calvin came on first, and he was brought on to kind of like do a lot more of the technical advertising and that type of work, so I could stay focused on more of the operations. And then eventually, after we had partnered with Nick, who had a high level of support, so it was kind of like each of these people had a key to the puzzle.
Mm,
Calvin knew some technical advertising that was really high level, really good. Nick had high level support and connections, relationships, and experience that was really valuable. And then Avin was just an amazing operator who has had built some other very successful agencies and knew how to do it. And so, kind of for what I was thinking during this whole journey is what pers- um, what is the increased percentage of odds that we succeed if I give these people equity,
mm,
and is it worth it to me to not do that, to take on potentially that extra risk? And so it's like, it's a lot of nothing is nothing, where a little bit less of that, or where some of something can be really significant. So for me, it
sure.
was like if my odds of winning increase significantly by dishing out this equity to these players, then I should do it. And
Yeah.
that was kind of like a key decision, a key realization is I knew that the odds of us becoming successful were going to be a lot higher if I brought these partners in, not as just like employees or I don't think they would have came in as employees, but as contractors or whatever, but as actual partners to build this company alongside.
Mm,
I knew my odds of winning would significantly increase. And
yeah.
that was the bet that I was more interested in taking.
Yeah. When you're bringing on equity partners, vision has to be really aligned. What's the vision that you kind of pitched these guys on when they came on board with you, whether it was in the early stages or even some of the later
That's a really
stages?
good question. Um, Ultimately, that we would use this as a platform to get more of what we wanted out of our lives.
Mm,
That was kind of the ultimate vision. Like this is actually the vision that I share with the team all the time. Is that like Lucid is on a journey of um, reducing human suffering and maximizing human potential. We're
mm,
doing that by helping distribute these compounds that save lives and change lives, and in the process, we're all going to grow. We're all going to succeed, and that's going to help each of us get more out of life. And so Lucid, the vision in short was that we were going to make it a dent in human suffering. We're going to maximize human potential, and we're going to grow beyond our wildest dreams in the process. And we're going to help a lot of other people grow as well. And that
yeah.
ultimately, like a really core value we have at Lucid is that people are more important than our projects. And so
Mm,
whether it's Lucid or previous companies I've worked on or future companies we'll work on, um, the myself, my partners, and our team are really interested in investing time and energy into
mm,
each other, and building those relationships, and having the trust that at the right time in the right ways, those relationships will build something bigger,
yeah.
big together.
Yeah. How do you guys live out your core values? It's something that I find very difficult within a lot of agencies. Like we have these core values, and sometimes it's a laminated poster on a wall that just gets stuck up there and forgotten. I of course have some of my own tactics of like how we live out core values, but how do you guys get action behind your core values? And it's not so much of something memorizing it. I feel like it's something that actually has to be lived out. How do you guys take action on those?
Totally. My partner Robin's really good at this. Whenever I was at Monk and he was with his agency, he would I would listen into calls where he would literally have his team members memorize and repeat back their core values, and that always
Yeah.
blew my mind. And I first I thought it was crazy, and later on I realized that like really having a deep understanding and internalization of who the company is and why they
Mhm.
are the way they are, and why why they do the things they do, it really makes all the difference. And so, how do we live it out today? A lot of using the language, I would say, is probably the most significant. Like we call it out, like when we're seeing it. So a couple really important core values is a remarkable investor experience. So we call all of our clients investors. They're
Mhm.
investing their time and energy into us, and so we're here to drive us a maximum return as we possibly can for them. So we drive a remarkable investor experience and a remarkable ROI. So that becomes kind of like this symbol of an ideal in our organization. So
Yeah.
we're a common question is like, are we driving a remarkable investor experience, or like this is not a remarkable investor experience? What are we going to do to ensure it becomes one?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like trying to actively use the language of the values in the situation, so that way you kind of bring the ideal to the playing field, to the ground, to the actual. And so that's kind of like the big way is just kind of connecting the dots between what does this value, these words mean in practice,
Yeah.
and being, and Avin's better at this than anyone on our team. But it's becoming kind of like company culture where we're always talking about it and always bringing it up and mentioning it when we're dealing with any of the situations that we
Yeah.
deal with.
Yeah, I always find that they're, like you mentioned, like best used in decision making, right? It's like whenever we make decisions, like we reflect on the core values. If it reflects positively on the core values, it's clear yes. If it's a negative impact, then it's a clear no, right? So it's like an easy way to make decisions, but also a great way to of how you hire people, where you promote people, when you fire people. It's like it all reflects back on core values. If you have to have a tough conversation with someone within your company, it reflects back on core values, and we always utilize those core values as a prop of like, hey, this is how this is how we went against this specific core value, right? And this is why we're having the conversation, right? So it can be utilized in those manners,
100%.
and it hits a lot deeper when you have those conversations with people. And same thing with praise. Like anytime that we give praise to someone on our team, it reflects back on a core value, whether that's say it's speed, for example. It's like all day, every day, like that's how we deliver. We deliver with speed, and so when that's the case, it's like, hey, like we can reflect back on this and like, hey, like I want to praise Aaron today for delivering on the core value of speed. He got this done before the deadline actually hit, right? And we were above and beyond KPI there. So just a quick example of like how we utilize core values, and I'm sure you guys do something very similar, right?
Very similar. I think it's critical, man. Like and like people start realizing the benefit of core values when they become practical. And
Mm,
that's the key. It's like you got to show it in action so people understand that this is no longer just an idea or an ideal, but it is actually something tangible that will make all
yeah,
the difference in both our investors and our own lives.
yeah. I feel like it's a good segue over into culture. You guys currently have an all remote team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
How,
that's right.
yeah, how are you guys implementing like a strong culture with the remote team? Something that can be somewhat difficult if you're not in the same room as other people, not getting face to face with them.
Totally.
How are you guys upholding your culture?
So I'm a big fan of like the Rockefeller habits. So we do some of like the obvious ones, like a daily stand up. So we meet every day at 12 o'clock Eastern, and just get on a call and chat through if any of us have any blocks or anything we need to mention. It's very quick, and a lot of times it's no blocks, and we just kind of flow with it. But it gives this like consistent touch point, this
Yeah,
consistent rally point, and so and that I think that's probably the most important thing that we do as a remote team in order to stay in sync and stay aligned and together is
mhm,
just have that daily touch point, and then that becomes the meeting place. Whether hey, let's stay on after the daily stand up, or let's meet up right before this daily stand up. So I think that's been really key. We also have like agreed upon working hours, so the whole team works between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern. This like with different time zones, we try to respect each other's time zones as best as possible, but also have like a clean period of time where we can all be available to each other. And so that's
sure.
that 12 to 4 o'clock time. Um, And like for Avin and myself, we've both been like digitally nomadic for years before COVID. So we've been doing the travel work from our computers for quite a long time, and Avin's been
Sure.
running remote teams for for a really long time too. So he has a lot of principles and systems that he's brought over from his experience that we've implemented that have allowed us to maintain a healthy balance. Some other things we do is there's a company called 15 Fives that essentially is like a Friday survey, just like how are you feeling, what's going
Oh,
on, anything you want to comment on or say. So like there's some of these kind of like tools and process and systems that we use that allow us to have connection points that we would otherwise have if we were in an office. We also do things like probably water cooler Slack channels. You might have heard of that before, but
yeah.
just like a general Slack channels that are more available for just fun catching up type of
Yeah.
activities. And it's like I go back and forth with the idea of like what are we missing out on by not being in an office. There's some really cool
Hmm.
companies that have some really creative teams are the most obvious. Like if
Hmm.
you have your creative teams in the same office, they can do a lot. Um, so I think there are some cons and pros and cons to both of it, but my honest to God opinion really comes down to like when people are personally aligned with what they want out of life, they do the best in their professional lives. Like
Sure.
they're not so separate, this personal and professional life. Yeah, maybe you need to unplug from one and connect to the other and make those transitions, but it's all one existence.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing with us being remote is people can be wherever, whenever they want, and that allows them to be fulfilled, at least more so, I think, personally, and less begrudged. They don't
Sure.
begrudge being in the office, for instance, and thus I think they perform better in work. It does come with its challenges, but I think the pros outweigh the cons.
Sure. Sure. 100%. So as far as, I guess like diving a little bit deeper on the team side of things, what are some like the best practices when it came to like implementing some new systems? Obviously, like you guys had a company well before you brought on someone that was very systems minded. How was that shift going from a culture that was kind of like fly by the seat of your pants into a systems culture where people had to be aligned with what you guys are doing, implementing new systems, following SOPs? How was that transition? Because there's sometimes friction there when we implement systems.
Totally. Honestly, I think it was kind of welcomed in our company. Like,
Mm,
the con of systems is more process and procedure, more rigmarole type thing that you have to go through. But like, I'm a very so me and Avin kind of really balance each other out in this sense. Avin is very kind of like staple, clear, focused. We played with his kids one time and we built these building blocks, and he built this like a firm, clear, sturdy tower that was just
yeah.
very basic, but it was not going to fall over. And I built this like crazy looking dragon castle, and like by themselves, like his was kind of boring and mine fell over. But you put them together and you get one of the most magnificent pieces of architecture. And so I guess what I'm saying there is like like you said, we were kind of like fly by your seat of your pants, moving very quickly. It was very fast. It was pretty volatile. You didn't really know what was going to come at you on any given day, and that can be stressful in a company, to say the least. And so
Yep.
when Aubin came in, a lot of processes and procedures we didn't have started taking place. Even just basic stuff like just getting out Notion, really started to document anything and everything we do, making playbooks and guides on the way we do these things, what these values are, when we're going to meet, and timelines on
Mm,
how we're going to run things, and creating new platforms for creative distribution, or onboarding forums, or a slideshow of how we're going to onboard every investor. These types of like pillars, they become stabilizing.
mm,
And if you're kind of in that early, move fast, go fast and break things, as Facebook would like to say, once your team gets past that like 10-person point, um, like processes and systems can be really an advantageous thing for everybody.
yeah.
For my team, like our team responded really well. They were kind of like, thank God, Avin, you came in, you lowered
Yeah.
the cortisol levels
Yeah.
quite a bit, and allowed more flow. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think positioning really matters too. Like, like one thing that we do at Lucid, this is kind of like a value of ours, is trust and transparency. Like, I've been in too many companies and like, unfortunately, I was in a lot of toxic cultures and bad companies prior, or rough companies before Lucid. But I learned a lot of ways on how to do it wrong, which taught me how to do it right. And part of that is we're really big on trust and transparency. We
Mm,
just we're very clear. So like we build in the open with our team. I'm very clear with like, hey, we're going to be introducing these systems for this reason. Yes, it's going to suck to have to do this new thing, but as soon as we start doing it, it's going to make our lives much better. And so
mhm.
I'm a big proponent of having honest and open conversations about
Sure.
cost and benefits with the team in real time, and it brings people in the loop, man. When people feel involved, like they feel a part of it. Not even feel, that's the wrong word. When people are a part of it, they'll give you their very best, and they'll take the
Yep.
ongnership necessary to really get to new heights. And so it kind of switched from us telling the team what to do to us building like with the team.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Love that. Kind of want to shift topics. We were in a good flow there, but I've been wanting to talk about essentially when I met you, and just give you some compliments on a few things. And something that I've noticed that you do at events. So I met you in Miami. Well, we met before that, but really like actually met you, got to know you better in Miami, and it was such a cool thing to me that being one like newer to I guess like the agency group that we know. Like I'm a newer face in that group, but your ability to one get to know me extremely fast, trust in essentially what we were doing, and you walking around making introductions for me at in Miami. I thought it was just one of the coolest things. And what kind of like what kind of leads you to help people build bridges and build connections with other people?
Hmm.
Because that was something that I've noticed about you, and it's not just me. Like I've seen you do it with other people as well. Like who are you looking for? Who can I introduce you to? It's like you're someone that builds bridges for other people. Why is
Thanks,
that
man.
exactly?
Yeah. Like probably some deep level, it's probably because I want them built for myself on a selfish sense. But like on a non-selfish sense, like I guess this is it. Like I had always I always was so business minded in my life that I always wanted to kind of like objectify things and just figure out how to take. And it took me a long time to learn how to have like real relationships. And
Sure.
real relationships are not take; they're primarily giving. Not
Yeah.
even so much give and take, just give. And so so it was, Nick Shackford taught me a ton about this. My wife taught me a ton about this. Alvin taught me a ton about this. Calvin taught me a lot about this. And essentially, like, I think that everyone has like a secret piece of gold in their heart or in their mind, and I'm curious what that is, and I want to make sure that the person that would glean the most value from receiving it gets it. And so I'm often just looking for, I want to know who you are, what you're about. Like Josh, this is kind of, what we went through. Like, who are you? What are you about? Like, what are
Yeah.
you great at? And like, who do I know that could possibly benefit from that? Or could my team possibly benefit from that? And
Sure.
what do you need? What's missing? What if you only knew this would change your entire reality? And I'm a big proponent of like, more builds more. So like if we can connect the dots and grow together and grow our community, that will all win. And so yeah, I'm just I think for the longest time it was that I was looking for. At the longest time, I didn't know how to have honest and open relationships where I was able to positively impact other people and
Mm,
them positively impact me. I was a big taker, and again, I think I learned how to not do it, and then I started having more positive relationships where I realized that if you have the heart of a servant, and that if you have just a giver's mindset, that it can create more abundance for than you could have ever imagined for the other person, for the community, and for yourself in
yeah.
response. And like this used to be like, oh well, maybe if I give, then I can get. And like lately, like when I say lately, over the last couple of years, I've really learned that like just giving it without cease, like like just sharing and adding as much value as you can is the fastest path to success.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
You
incredible,
win
man.
when the others around you win.
Oh,
That's what
100%.
it comes down to.
And it's I knew it was genuine too. Just from the depth of like you explained my service better than I could explain it. And I thought it was so funny of like, dang, I was like, I need to get this guy on my sales team or something because it's truly incredible how well you actually explain what we do. So yeah, I thought that was very unique, man. And obviously I appreciated one as a friend, but two as someone that's a colleague in the space. Which kind of leads me into
100%, man. You do the
yeah,
best work in the game. That's just simply what it is. Like,
yeah,
this is what I would say at these different conferences and say it now. It's like, if you want to grow your agency, you got to work with Josh. Like, the reality is, like, you've been there, you've done it, you've seen the things that people are going to the traps they're going to step into, the holes
mm,
they're going to fall into, and you know how to solve it and prevent them from doing so, so they can reach their
yeah.
full potential,
Oh,
quickly. So
100%. Yeah, man. And so kind of transitioning into like the event side of things, it's something that you guys do a ton of. Like every event that I think I've been to in the last 12 months, I feel like you guys have been there. What is kind of the strategy behind going to events? Obviously, like I feel like I know where it's going, but like for other people, like I go to events all the time. I have, obviously a strategy behind why I go to events. But I'm curious to hear like what is your big your big investment into events? Like, why do you pay to go to events?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the obvious answer is like network, net worth, right? Like, the more and the better people you surround yourself with, and the more you serve those people, the more opportunity you're going to create, for them, for us, for everyone. And so, that's kind of that. It's that I like to also. I'm very much like a creature of, my surroundings. So if I'm around a
Mm,
lot of smart people doing smart things,
yep.
then I do something similar. And so I like to surround myself with high level players and strong players because I
Mm,
think it leads me to perform better. And but I'll tell you, like, I'm kind of changing my opinion on it. Like, I used to be like really big on like you should be like. Well, so I first went from like I never went to any events at all, and then I started going to events, and I'm like, wow, this is great. I'm around people that understand what I do. Finally, like I'm around people that, share mutual values, that want to push, that want to grow, and uh, and that's been great. And then now I'm kind of, switching my perspective a little bit, where I've met a lot of really smart and cool people, and there's a lot of cool events that I, want to go to and learn from. But like, it's a balance, It's like
sure.
like if you're just at every event, you're not implementing, the things that you're learning to the
Yeah.
degree that you could, and you might be preventing your growth. It's also a cash flow thing. Like, where are you putting your money? Like, investing in the things that you've learned and taking those
Yep.
next steps, or, in, tickets for the next place. And I think you can get caught up in kind of the hype. Like, it's easy to get caught up in the hype
Sure.
of like, being part of the cool kids club, or like,
Yeah.
just hanging out with the right people. And these days, like, a lot of a lot of the great work that Lucid did to get where we were, came before we started going to those events. And
Mm,
events kind of like helped us grow and helped us solidify, taught like helped us learn the things that we didn't know that were preventing more growth. But I think it's really important to have a healthy balance. So
yeah.
honestly, we'll probably cut back on the amount of events that we go to this year, and be more intentional with the ones that we, do attend, just so we can lean into implementation, more
Yep.
often. I also like, I like to spend time with the people that I've met, like, Joshua, I'm in Nashville. I call you, hey, I'm in town.
Yeah.
Let's get together, and,
Yeah. Of course.
and whomever. And it's like that level of, more intentional time, I find to
Mm.
be really valuable.
Yeah, it's
Um,
some of the deeper rooted conversations where you pull the most value from. But I do agree with you. It's that balance between consumption and application. We
100%.
we try to do like maybe like an event a quarter if we can. But like you know, there are events that happen every month that
For
you can
sure.
go to, and it's like there has to be a balance of like sometimes you need a quarter of just getting in the trenches and getting the hands dirty and like going deep with clients, going deep with systems processes, and sometimes you just have to put your head down and you have to understand what stage that you're currently in. So definitely good feedback. I like the perspective of like my perspective has changed over the months or the years. 100%. I'm in the same boat of like sometimes you need it, and sometimes it's good to get the fire up, man. Of like you just go to an event and you're stoked coming back, and like that's why I like to go to them sometimes. It's like hey, sometimes I just need the amp up because I'm feeling a
100%.
little stale.
100%. And that's, I honestly, the geek out events is probably the most like that for me. It's like, I find it to be more of like hanging out with a group of friends and community, more so than I'm going to, specifically learn this strategy or tactic. It's like, I just, yeah, like the reason I will go to future events, and the ones that are most pressing, like valuable to me, are the ones that are more like a family. Like, I go to these
Mhm.
geek out events, and I feel like I'm just around a bunch of people from all over the world that I love and I respect, and that are helping me grow. And dude, like, I'll tell you, this last year we traveled a lot. This last year, and like I would wind up in like Amsterdam or Paris, and like I just knew people, because of
Mhm.
these events. And then I was just linking up with people and hanging out in Paris with Simon, and hanging out with Amsterdam with Ben. And I'm just like, in Barcelona, we all got together. And so it's just, Um, I love the more integrative global friendship and global community of
Sure.
high level players. And so I would like to continue to foster those relationships and community. And some events, I think, especially Geek Out, do a really good job of emphasizing the community aspect, as one of the prime values of the
Yeah.
event.
Oh, 100%. Um, as far as something that I usually ask a lot of the guests on here is current inputs, whether that's books, podcasts, YouTube channels. What are you consuming currently that might be helpful to the audience?
Dude, I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but I'll tell you. So I, uh, I, um, uh, love him or hate him. Most people like him. I used to like really not like Hermosi because I would just
Mm,
like really thought like I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I really listened to him. I just didn't really like him. It was kind of
sure.
the vibe I had. I just listened to a couple of things and I said, man, I bet if I just listened to every damn thing this guy said on his videos, that I would be a lot faster, or a lot smarter, a lot faster. And so I just recently decided that I'm just gonna like iterate through them all, and
Let's go.
and so
Benjamin,
I've
baby.
been, yeah, man. So I'm just like on a Hormozy binge season where I just want to be like up to speed with how he thinks, and
Yeah.
integrate that knowledge so I can perform better. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I I used to be. I think reading is really important, but it's not the way I consume the most amount of information the fastest. I do really
Sure.
good with videos. I do really good with visual content. It's like it's how I learn. It's how I learned when I was young. It's how I got learned the things that I learned that got me here. And I think it's going to be a significant part of what gets me ahead in the future. And so I'm a big proponent of like distilled, like evolved thought. I also like conversations like the ones that we're having now, where you can see people resolving new ideas in
Mm,
real time. And so I spend time watching those. Books, I read a lot of like more like spiritual books, or like consciousness based books, like Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which was Steve Jobs' favorite book on spirituality, changed my
mm.
life fundamentally. Autobiography of a Yogi is way too long, but it's a great book.
Yeah.
And so think, and then like a lot of like, I'm kind of a self help junkie, or at least I was for a while. So I like a lot of books that kind of refine me when it comes to personal, and when it comes to professional. I like a lot of like
Yeah.
video content. But
Yeah.
yeah, right now I'm on a bit of a Hormozy
I love it, man.
binge, and I'll tell you, like and now that I'm kind of getting past my ego on it, he's really pretty damn smart, and he's very exact with what he says. He's very clear, and I'm learning a lot very quickly, and I think it's gonna
Yep.
make a big impact.
Oh, 100%, man. Yeah, he's definitely got his content dialed in. Like you said, he's very clear and to the point with a lot of what he says. Yeah, so good stuff, man. So as far as, Lucid, your life over the next couple of years, what's kind of the vision?
Yeah, good question. So Lucid is the largest CBD and hemp advertising company in the world at the moment, which is great, and very cool. And I'm super grateful, and we built something very special. I'd like to expand that to the largest cannabis, psychedelic, and adaptogen advertising agency. Currently, we advertise all three of those verticals, and I'm expecting, we're talking about potential acquisitions. We're talking, and we're scaling very quickly on all these fronts. And so the goal of the goal of this next year is to shift from being the largest in CBD and hemp to becoming the largest in cannabis, psychedelic, and adaptogens. We're currently like a mid seven figure agency, and I would like for us to be an 8 figure agency in 2023, and I think we can do it. I'm feeling pretty good about it. We have a pretty clear path. There's just been some new policy rollouts that allow us to do more than we've ever been able to do before, and so we're leaning heavily into that. Um, and then we'll kind of see like there's a lot of different directions we can kind of go with it. We've talked about rolling out new offers. We've talked about expanding into even other verticals, or and and we've talked about the potential for a merger or an acquisition one day, and kind of being prepared for that. But I'll tell you, like in this weird recessionary time period, yeah, like a lot of my thoughts about merging or selling the agency, they've kind of changed. I don't really. I'm not that inclined to build and sell like I once was. And I think that's probably a sign that we're on the right path. It's because like someone told me one time, it's like your company's ready to sell when you don't want to sell it anymore. So
Yeah.
like, there's something I think to be said about that. But I like, I like what we're doing now. Like
Yeah.
it's making a big difference in a lot of people's lives, and we have like we're really well positioned in the space. We serve an audience that other people either don't want to or don't have access to serve. We're really good at what we do, and it's very focused. And I think it changes my team's life, it changes my life, it changes my partner's life, and so I think we're just gonna lean in. I think we'll, our first year, 2021, we 10x our business, and 2022, we continued to grow and had a huge year-over-year growth. And 2023, I think we have potential to 10x again. We have a lot of new paths that are opening up and a lot of new opportunities. And
Yeah.
as you know, cannabis and psychedelics, we're still just at the beginning phases of this stuff, man. Like it feels like it's been here a while, but new legislation's rolling out, new legalizations rolling out, and more markets are opening up, or new more marketing markets are opening up to these types of products internationally. And so
Yeah.
there's currently like no one who's as hyper focused on compliance and sustainability of advertising as much as we are. And I think that is a really competitive advantage. Competition is not really one of the things to think about, but it's a big advantage that I think is going to allow us to
Yeah.
scale very quickly. So the goal is to hit 8 figures next year, and do so by impacting way more people, a lot more people's lives than we do currently.
Yeah. What are the barriers that will keep you from getting there?
Good question. So I kind of think it's a few things. One, I think that like in internal optimization, like we have to level up. I'm a big proponent of the quote of like, what got us here won't get us there. So like, I think on internally, we're continuing to kind of roll out EOS, entrepreneurship operating, or entrepreneur operating system from the Traction books. We're implementing a lot of those ideas and systems. We're implementing new pod-based structures. So a lot of internal optimization from how we run the company day to day. That's going to create more scalability and more strategic and growth efforts within smaller pockets of people. So that's one. Two, I think creative is only going to increase in amount of importance as we go. Like I remember the days when it was like you really need to be doing video on Facebook. That's what really matters. And like
Sure.
now it's like now it's just deep layers of a creative and community. And so I think internal optimizations, more efficacy and creative, faster expansion into these alternative verticals, and finally deeper verification of advertising efficacy. Like post iOS 14, it's hard to really showcase with 100% proof like
Sure.
how the viability of these numbers. So some people don't trust platform ROAS. Google Analytics has big discrepancies. There's 10, 15, 20 different attribution tools out there. MER is thrown around but used a lot differently by a lot of different people. And so I'm really big on verifying the impact of advertising. So yeah, I'd say it's internal improvements, like internal improvements, creative improvements, verifying the impact of advertising, and speed at which we expand into these new verticals. I think if we do those four things, with the fifth being potentially opening up new offers, then we will achieve 10x or an 8-figure revenue next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible, man. Absolutely love it. Love the vision. Love the steps to get there. Sounds like you guys are dialed in and ready for a big 2023.
Yeah, man.
Any last notes to the audience of like, key things that you want them to take away from this conversation today? Anything that we didn't get a chance to touch on that you wish we touched on?
Yeah, man. I think one of the most important things in the agency space, or like even just in business, has been like really aligning your passions with your work. Like I've been a fan of cannabis and these types of products for a very long time, and I think that's been a very key component into our success. It's something I care about. I care about people having access to products that can help them feel better without feeling worse.
Yeah.
It's something I wanted for myself. It's something that I think a lot of people benefit from. And so, I think one of the main things I'd say is like, if you're in a point where you're stuck and you're not growing, look for what it is that you're deeply passionate about, and or evaluate if you are deeply passionate about what you're working on, and try to realign to fulfill that passion um, through your work. And so, for me, like I love talking about cannabis. I love talking about psychedelic. I love talking about consciousness and how these products are impacting it. And me having so much enthusiasm and learning to be more disciplined each and every day, I think has really been the secret sauce that has allowed us to scale.
Yeah.
It's that combination of enthusiasm and discipline. And so, if you're not enthusiastic about what you're doing, stop doing it. Like
Yeah.
do something else, and if you know, or at least iterate what you are doing in order to find that alignment that allows you to scale.
100%. Love it, man. Some good words there. You guys, or Aaron, where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. At Aaron J Nosbisch, kind of anywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, whatnot. I'm often on Instagram and I'm often on YouTube, so that's probably the best place to find me. And
I'm
you can
gonna drop
also,
your
yeah, yeah.
your Instagram in the chat real quick. That way people can find you there.
You can
Even though
also
most
find
of
our
our
site
viewers
at.
probably know you already.
You can also find our site at We Are Lucid, and then or my site is just Aaron J Nosbisch. But Josh, I'm super grateful to be on this call with you, man. I've been a
Yeah,
fan of
man.
the show for a while, and it's really exciting to be on. You're doing really great work, and
Thank
I
you.
think that there's really no one in the industry who is serving the agency founder population like you are, man. You're changing people's lives every day, and I'm super grateful that that you had me on here and gave me an opportunity to share our journey and any value we've learned along the way.
Yeah, man. Super valuable. So I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're traveling right now. I know it's not easy to be able to just pull the laptop out and do this, especially when you're at a really cool destination and you guys are probably wanting to go out and do stuff. So I appreciate your time, man.
Of course, dude. Absolutely. Thanks for
Cool.
watching, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate you. We will be back Thursday with a live stream. We're going to be doing a Watch Me Live. I'm not 100% sure what I want as the topic yet, so I'll fill you guys in. So if you're following along on Instagram or other places, I will fill you guys in on what we're going to be chatting about in the live stream Thursday. But there will be one Thursday. It'll be probably 6 p.m. Central Time. So just be on the lookout for that, and excited for the next one, guys. So appreciate you guys watching, and we'll talk to you soon.